Here's Johnny.
Passwords, passwords, passwords. Everyone has their standard password, their pet's name, their partner's name, the town they were born in, something easy to remember. Before password complexity was standardised, you have most likely used a single password to log into multiple accounts. I've done this in the past, and I know I'm not the only one. If you think about how many online accounts the average person has these days, so you've got Amazon, Netflix, iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, so on and so on. Each of those accounts require a password, and a lot of people don't want to keep making up new passwords, so it's easier to just use the same one. So why do a lot of accounts now require a complex password? Well, let's Google the top passwords. NordPass can give us the top 200 most used in 2021. So here's the list on their website. Coming in at number 1, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At number 2, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And number 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And number 4, you've got QWERTY. Let's go down the list a bit more. At 16, you've got password 1. At 20, you've got password 1, 2, 3. 41 is monkey. 60, you've got football. 121, you've got Liverpool. And then we've got 152 here, so you've got let me in. So if you could get your hands on a bulk list of account names or email addresses for websites, you could try these passwords and potentially gain access to online accounts and begin the process of fraudulent activity, from purchasing items on Amazon to taking out loans for high values in the victim's name. There are many ways that someone can get hold of your email address. Lists of emails can be legally and illegally obtained. They can be legally obtained by you signing up, for instance, for a website or inputting your information, say for an insurance quote. Your email may be shared with third parties for marketing purposes, but you won't know who those third parties are. Or your email can be found via OSINT, which is open source intelligence. So if your email is out on the internet anywhere, chances are it's going to be found and can be used. And they can be illegally obtained by accessing the dark web marketplaces, for instance, where a bulk of emails have been harvested from a website as part of a hack. Usually, harvested emails from any website may contain the password in a hashed format, so it would be unreadable to humans. But there are tools that can crack the hash and display the password in plain text. So let's do a really simple example to show a password hash. Let's use a password from that list of the 200 top passwords. Let's use Liverpool. Hash it and crack it just using the online tools. I'm going to go to a hash generator and generate a SHA-2 hash. SHA-2 is the secure hash algorithm and is a cryptographic hash function that's part of the SHA family. And it can use different size hashes such as 224, 256, 384 and 512-bit digests. SHA-2 is considered one of the high levels of cryptographic hashing. On this generator, I'm going to set the output to 256 as the hash size and then type in Liverpool and calculate SHA-2. So this is a SHA-256 hash. I'm going to copy it and go to an online hash cracking site such as CrackStation, paste the hash in and then crack it. It's going to give me the password in plain text so we can see Liverpool. This is because the password is really simple and is probably in the majority of hashing and password databases, again because it's one of the most used passwords. Some databases, but not many, but still some, don't have any form of hashing algorithm when storing passwords in their databases. An example was the RockU hack in 2009. RockU was a company that developed widgets for MySpace and other social networks who experienced a data breach when attackers found over 32 million user accounts, along with the passwords stored in plain text with no form of hashing against the database. This was due to an SQL or structured query language vulnerability which gained them access to the said database. The passwords were then downloaded, consolidated into a text document called rocku.txt, and is still used in brute force attacks and comes pre-downloaded in Kali Linux. So what is brute force? Brute force is used when an attacker submits many passwords and phrases with the aim of successfully logging into an account or database. This can be done manually by typing in an email address or trying multiple passwords, which is time consuming. Or it can be automated where thousands of passwords are tried and eventually the correct password will let you in. This is known as a dictionary attack. So let's brute force our way into a web server, a router, web UI to be exact. On my Kali machine, I'm going to use a tool called Hydra. This is made for brute forcing usernames and passwords. I can tell Hydra to use a word list to assist in breaking into a service such as FTP, the file transfer protocol, SSH, secure shell, telnet, and so on. So let's assume I've begun a phishing campaign and I've sent out thousands of phishing emails that attempt to engineer the victim into clicking the link contained in the email body. If you check out my video on phishing, I did a campaign based around the COVID-19 pandemic which convinced my friend to input all his personal information. So I'll just do this quickly. I fired up my Apache web server on my Kali machine and it contains some text and a hook to Beef. Beef is the browser exploitation framework. Once the link is clicked, they'll access a fake web page and it says it just on the page, nothing to see here. I used Beef in a past video on social engineering, so check that out too. Beef will show me the public IP address of the victim network, which I could then perform an Nmap scan against. I then could check to see if there are any ports open, and if there are any open, I might be able to access a web UI of a host device that's on that network. So let's give it a go. I've clicked on the link in the email and it's taken me to this web page saying nothing to see here. If I head over to Beef, it's grabbed my public IP address, which I can perform an Nmap scan against. So let's go to the terminal and I'm going to type in Nmap, then paste in my public IP address, and then -P, which means ports to scan. I'm not going to scan the full 65,535 ports, that's going to take a long time. So I'm just going to scan ports 1 to 30. It's now giving me a list of ports on this network and tells me the ones that are open. We've got port 21 for FTP, we've got port 22 for SSH, port 28, which isn't a standard port. So what could that be? Same with port 29 and 30. Well, 30 is the port used to access the Apache web server externally, so we can disregard that. Let's look at port 28. I'll go to my web browser and input the IP address with the port number. It's taken me to what appears to be an NVR, or network video recorder. This might be a good find actually. We might be able to log in and see some people. Maybe we could use this information to arrange a break-in or do a physical security audit. Let's also go to port 29. So this is taking me to what appears to be a router. Instead of using port 80, it's using port 29. Well, I've got a web interface, which is a good start. So the command is nmap-sv, my public IP address, -p 21 to 23. The results show that port 22 is open, which is SSH, and it tells me that's a Draytech router. Great, so let's try and break into this using Hydra. Let's do Hydra-L admin -P wordlist.txt and then a / and then input the public IP address and then SSH. So I've told Hydra to log in using -L. I have used admin as the username. I could also create a word list and put in standard usernames such as administrator, admin, root, management, and so on. I'll then change that flag to -L to allow me to do that. I'll leave it as -L and put admin. This is the most common login username. I'll do -P and then I've specified a word list location. I'm not using RockU as it has millions of passwords in that folder and it would take a long time. So I've created my own word list and used passwords from the top password list I searched for earlier on. I'll show you the RockU TXT password list. So I'll do cd/user/share/word lists. And then I'll do a cat RockU TXT. Then you'll see the size of the RockU TXT password list. I press enter and let it run. And we've found the password. So it says the host and gives us the IP address, the login, which is admin, and the password, which is Liverpool. Let's then go to the web interface and log in. From here, I could redirect DNS to a malicious server, or I could start deleting configurations on the network, causing major issues. A lot of people use the same passwords for multiple accounts. So let's go to the NVR and see if we can log in. I'll try admin and Liverpool. That's not let me get in. Let's do a Google search of the Elan default credentials. The default credentials are Elan and 3526. Let's try them. That hasn't worked either. So let's try Elan and Liverpool. and now we're in. We can look around and see what cameras there are and scope the premises should that be necessary. The problem with Hydra is it's loud. If you've got an IDS or an intrusion detection system on site, then it could alert the admins that a device is receiving too many login attempts, causing the alarm to be raised. We can crack the password offline, but it would involve the attacker getting the password hashes, whether that's dumping the hash file while they're accessing the victim machine after successfully creating a reverse connection via installed malware, or purchasing hashes from the dark web marketplaces. When I said at the start of the video, if a website is hacked and the database is stolen, chances are they've stolen the usernames, but the passwords should be stored in a hashed format, whether that's MD5, SHA-1, SHA-2 and so on. This was the problem with the RockQ hack. All the passwords were stored in plain text, so no cracking was needed at all. When a database is taken, the hacker will see the username, most likely in plain text, but then see the password hash, which looks something like this. In Kali, if I go to cat, etc, shadow, this is where the hashed passwords are stored in Linux. If there were more users on this machine, there'd be more hashed passwords, but we can see the root and the hash of the password. I'm going to go ahead and create a hashed password. I'm going to use the password again from the list of the most popular passwords, so I'll take the top 40 for instance. So quer123456. I'll hash it as SHA-256, a relatively strong hash. I'll go to my Windows machine and I'm going to create a notepad file and paste the hash into it and save it as hash.txt. I'm going to copy a bulk of passwords from that top 200 list, so I'm going to do the top 40 and paste them into a text document. And I'm going to call it wordlist.txt. Let's open the terminal window and begin cracking this hash. So I'm going to redirect myself to the hashcat directory. hashcat.exe-m. This is the hash type. If I go to the hashcat wiki, we can see -m is the hash type. SHA-256 is number 1400, so we do -m 1400. Then we do -a, which is the attack mode. Back on the wiki, we have 0 for straight, so this would be a straightforward word list attack. We can then do a combination, brute force, and so on. So I'm just going to do -a0 for a straight attack. I'll then drop the locations for the hash file into the command prompt and the word list. Press enter and let it run. Now we can see it's cracked the hash file and it gives us the password of quer123456. So how can we protect ourselves against dictionary attacks? The best way is to use a password that you know will not be in a word list. And the best way to do that is to use a password generator. These are available online or as part of a password vault software such as LastPass, NordPass, 1Password, or what I personally use is KeyPass for Windows or MacPass for Mac. If I open up my MacPass and create a new entry, I have the option to generate a password. I can make it different lengths, contain different characters, so I'll set the length to 18 characters and include letters, numbers and special characters. I'll then copy the password and generate a SHA-2 hash. I'm going to copy and paste that into CrackStation and try to crack it. The database won't find it and won't be able to crack it. Hashcat, as well as other password crackers such as John the Ripper, can brute force a password and try millions of variations to eventually find a match and crack the password. However, the longer and more complex the password, the more time and resources it will take to crack that password. This graphic here shows the time it will take to crack a password. If you're using a numbers only password, up to 10 characters, that can be brute forced very quickly. Whereas if you use a password that is say 12 characters long, contains numbers, upper and lowercase letters and symbols, then it would take 34,000 years to crack that password. So just make sure you're using complex passwords and store them in a vault, offline preferably. Another way to mitigate someone accessing your account if they successfully brute force is 2FA, two-factor authentication, or MFA, multi-factor authentication, where available. If you were to log into a website, for instance, or a server, You might then receive a notification on another device such as your phone with a code or a phrase, or to press a particular button to authenticate the login. A lot of banking apps do this now, so if you were paying for something online, then the app might say please log into your banking app to authorise the payment. MFA is a bit more to it. If you try and gain access to a website or an application, you'll need to present 2 or more forms of evidence. This is something the user has, knows, and is. The user has is a physical object such as a tag or a security token or a key, and so on. The user knows is something like a password or a PIN, and the user is a physical characteristic such as biometrics, fingerprints, retinal scanner, and so on. The one way you can mitigate any of this is to create a password that is long and complex, and also don't click any links that you're unsure about.